All right.
Well, howdy, everybody. My name is Bill Hill, class of 1984, and your San Antonio A&M Club president. I want to welcome you to the second social distancing Monday lunch. And the program for today is May 11th, where we welcome General Ramirez, the Commandant of Corps Cadets, to our program. You all know that Aggie Park has been closed and all events have been postponed or canceled really since March 9th. That was our last Monday lunch. But really, it was Logan's great idea to continue this program last week, and we kicked off our first virtual Monday lunch. It was a great program. If you haven't had a chance, I really would encourage you to go back and look at that program. Logan, you want to just recap briefly who we had on the program and any takeaways you have from that?
Sure. Last week, thought it went great. We had baseball insider and author Heath Clary, class of 2019. He talked about his book and what's going on with Aggie baseball, and it was really neat to be able to continue the programs, although it's virtually done. It kind of allows anybody and everybody to take part in our Monday lunch programs that don't normally make it. So thought it worked out really good, and we're excited about this week with General Ramirez.
Well, thank you, Logan. I will tell you, if you missed the program, it's really worth going back and looking at. Go to the San Antonio A&M webpage, and at the top of the webpage, there's a bar, and there's a bar called Event Bar. You click on that, and you go to past events, and then you can click on the link that takes you to that program. It was very, very entertaining. Logan, you did a great job. Well, everyone knows that we've canceled Monday lunches for now, but now we've resumed them virtually. A couple other events have been affected by this COVID-19. The first primary one that was affected was our golf tournament fundraiser, which was scheduled late March. We're currently planning, and we haven't finalized the date, but it's either going to be the first week or the second week in September, and there'll be more information to follow about that. The next big thing that was affected was Aggie Muster. And the board of directors and volunteers were able to put together a great program under Logan's leadership as well. And we videotaped that in advance, and we posted it on our webpage, as well as the Association of Former Students Muster page on the 21st of April. I'm happy to report there were over 1,100 folks that viewed the San Antonio A&M muster. Now I'm going to remind you that typically 600 or 700 people show up at our actual live muster. So Logan, it was a very difficult time putting together. You did a great job, but we might have had the greatest participation we've had in a long time. So we look forward to mustering in person next year, and we hope we can do that. Next thing I want to talk about is Aggie Family Barbecue. It was scheduled for May 16th. We've postponed that. We don't know how that's going to look and when it's going to be, but as soon as we feel that it's appropriate and safe enough to continue that, that's one of the great family events we have at the San Antonio A&M Club, and we're looking forward to doing that. I know everyone's probably wondering what's going to happen. Are we going to have a coaches night this year? Currently, coaches night scheduled for June 8th, and this week we were in touch with the Association of Former Students. It looks like there's going to be some pretty significant changes to coaches night, but we're hopeful that we're going to be able to do coaches night to some degree or another. We're told the students are going to be coming back late to campus this year, or at least the football players, and that coach is going to have to cram 2 months of preparation into about 4 months of preparation into 2 months. So because the coach's schedule is not going to allow him to travel to all the different locations to be present coaches night, it doesn't look like he'll be able to physically attend. We're still working with the Association of Former Students to determine whether or not there'll be some sort of video or virtual live streaming coaches night. Anyway, our chairman of that event will be continuing to coordinate with the Association of Former Students. We'll get that information out to you as soon as possible. Logan, did I miss anything?
Capital campaign.
Absolutely.
Did you mention the capital campaign?
Yes, well, I think everybody knows we have a capital campaign with the goal to raise money so that we can renovate the Aggie Park and expand it and make it a first-class facility. This project has been in the plans for over 3 years, and this year we had hoped to kick off the actual construction in January. That actually didn't happen due to the fundraising. We need to raise a little bit more funds, but we really went into high gear, and we've been very successful. But we got some ways to go. Today we've raised $931,000, and since last Monday, that's an increase of $3,375. So I must tell you, we're not actively fundraising because of the COVID-19 and the fact that this is probably not the best time to ask for funds, but the money is still coming in slowly. We're looking at the right time to resume that fundraising, and we've got some good ideas on how to do that. Just to remind you, our goal is $1.6 million. And we can achieve that with a one-for-one, because we've been given a one-for-one match from the Mays Foundation. And out of the $450,000 that we needed to raise and then be matched by the Mays Foundation, we have raised over $115,000 so far. So we've got a ways to go, but I'm optimistic that we'll get there. If not this year, next year. Okay, well, Logan, as you all know, is our club vice president. Logan Richter's class of 2005, and he's going to introduce today's program and our guest speaker.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the update on Aggie Park and where we stand. General Ramirez is our guest today. Thank you very much for joining us, and let's get right into it. General, how's everything going in College Station?
Well, thanks for the invitation first, Logan. I always appreciate getting a chance to talk to the San Antonio A&M Club. It's one of my favorites across the state. Always enjoy going, and even if we have to do it virtually, it's still my honor to be here with you today. Things are going fine in College Station. We just finished up the school year. Commencements were postponed, but every name of every Aggie graduate that was going to graduate this May was shown on the Jumbotron at Kyle Field yesterday and today. Commissioning, we had 128 Aggies that commissioned into the United States Armed Forces yesterday. We
Awesome.
did that virtually as well. And we had a combination on campus of both virtual commissionings, and the Army had some individual commissionings where they actually had cadre members do the oath, allowed the officer to come in with a small group of family members. It's great to see. I walked around campus, caught many of those as well. So even though they were done a little bit differently, the Aggie spirit prevailed, and we were able to do a lot of these virtually or in small groups to at least recognize the fact that these are significant accomplishments for a lot of Aggies. The only time in their lives they'll get the chance to do this. And so it was important to do something for them to recognize their accomplishments.
That's great. How many cadets were stayed on campus or have stayed on campus throughout this time? Have you had a large number? Or?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. The whole campus went for spring break. They all left campus for spring break. And when they came back, their whole world had turned upside down. Many decisions were made during spring break and the week after spring break, when the decision was made there would be no classes, while we determined how we were going to do online classes and what other changes needed to be made on campus. So as a result, all classes went online. So cadets had the opportunity to stay home and do their classes online, or to come to campus, get their stuff, and then go home and conduct their classes online, or campus remained open for those that wanted to stay on campus. After spring break was done and the decisions had been made about who wanted to stay and who wanted to go, we had about 600 cadets that stayed on campus right after spring break. Now, over time, that number went down, but literally up until last week, we still had well over 300 cadets living in the dorms on campus, doing their classes online, mainly because either A, they couldn't go home. We have several cadets, for example, that live abroad, that could not go home. We have several cadets whose parents are healthcare workers that preferred that their sons and daughters stayed here versus going home, or they risked a higher risk of exposure. And then we had some cadets who said, look, I can study better here more effectively than I could back home. So we started with about 600. We ended the week at about 300 cadets that stayed here on campus to do their online instruction.
Now, how's that affected Assistant Commandant Meredith Simpson? Has she still been able to provide the academic advice and mentoring to the cadets through this time?
Sure has. The whole staff has stayed engaged. The majority of my staff has been working remotely, but Meredith has been engaged with cadets from the get-go. There's not been any drop-off in services whatsoever. Cadets can contact her via phone, via computer, or via a Zoom meeting if necessary. But Meredith and her team have been providing academic support throughout this time frame with no issues whatsoever.
Is it too early to know the GPA for the semester?
It is right now, and to be quite honest with you, given the fact that cadets, students, have the opportunity to go pass-fail this semester versus a letter grade, it's going to be a little more difficult for Meredith and her team to determine a grade point average, because it's kind of hard to determine what pass means versus fail means in terms of a number. So we're going to have to wait and see. We may have to put a little asterisk next to whatever number we come up with and say, this is based on, kind of a partial grade point average based on those that took a letter grade versus those that took pass fail.
That's good to hear. Our first question from the club, Robert Lozano was the first to ask this. He put class of 2021. I know he's a bit older than that. He was the first, but a lot of everybody wants to know what kind of measures are y'all looking into for the fall if things get going. How are y'all going to handle the situation we're in?
Yeah, great question. Here's what I'll tell you. Right now, what I have directed the staff to do is we are planning for the opening of school as if it was already scheduled. So what that means is, for example, Freshman Orientation Week, FOW, starts on Thursday, 13 August. And that's what we're planning for. We're planning to welcome all the new freshmen on 13 August. Now, is that going to look different than it has in the past? Yes, it is. How different? We're not really sure yet. We've still got some guidance yet to come. But here's what I'll tell you. We don't expect that we're going to allow 500 freshmen to show up at 8 o'clock on the 13th and, shove them into Duncan Dining Hall and then run them through the in-processing. We're probably going to cycle freshmen through so that we get manageable numbers and we can maintain our social distancing. We're probably going to use all of Duncan for FOW in processing, and we'll probably move parents who come with their sons and daughters over to the core center and have them wait there until the in-processing is done. And that's just one small measure we're taking because we figure we're going to have to maintain social distancing no matter what. So we've got to do that. We've got to do FOW kind of in bite-sized chunks. We have no new student conferences this summer on campus. And new student conferences, for those that know, is when we would measure all of our cadets, our inbound cadets, for their uniforms. We don't get that opportunity this summer because all new student conferences are being done virtual. So as a result, measuring cadets for their uniforms is going to take place during FOW. So we're already looking at how do we factor that into the schedule, and how is the schedule going to change as a result of all the measures that are in place with COVID-19. We don't envision as many large group meetings where you bring 800-900 freshmen into the theater, for example, for meetings. We don't envision as many of those as we've had in the past. We're going to start to utilize, like everybody else, technology. At night, when freshmen are in their rooms for evening study time, they'll be given assignments to go online and look at presentations that we would normally give in mass big groups during the day. We're gonna go to more of a virtual format for all of that, and again, for all the right reasons, so we minimize the exposure. So things like that are going to look different. What we don't know right now is, are we going to be allowed to do formations the way we always have? As you all know, when you put 2,300, 2,400, 2,500 cadets on the quad at formation, you know, are we going to be able to do that again? Are we going to be able to eat in Duncan Dining Hall the way we have? Again, 23 to 2,500 cadets eating all together in Duncan Dining Hall at the same time. We don't know. We're already doing some planning to say, if we can't, what are the measures we take to mitigate that and to ensure that we're minimizing the risk to our cadets. So I guess our going in position is, we're not going to tell you what we can't do. What we're going to tell you is what we can do. Given the restrictions, given the implications of COVID-19, what can we do to try to continue to maintain normalcy with the Corps cadets?
Speaking of number of cadets, I know that in 2010, your mission given by Bowen Lofton was 2,600 cadets by 2020. I know the numbers do fluctuate, but where are we at on that mission?
We're not there yet. We were on a really good glide path there, and we thought we'd get there ahead of time. The last 2 years, we've seen a dip in the numbers, mainly because the university's seen a dip in their numbers. And we thought we were well on our way to getting 900 to 950 freshmen this year. I mean, things were looking really good. Then COVID-19 hit. Right now, we are expecting 800, maybe a little bit more than 800, which is a good number. I would have liked to have gotten closer to 900 to 950, because I think for us to get to where we need to be, we need to bring in 900, 950 consistently. But if we get 800 this year, given everything that's taken place over the last several months with COVID-19, I'll be very happy. And I think we're back on the glide path to start growing this Corps again to get to the numbers we're looking for.
What kind of things are y'all looking at in terms of how to market the Corps to continue to grow during these times, because not being able to get out and meet with high schools and stuff, it's got to be challenging. What are some of the things y'all have looked into?
Yeah, it's very challenging. Just as an example, you know, all the Spend the Night with the Corps programs for the last couple of months were canceled. And that has a huge impact on us, you know, because we bring in literally hundreds of prospective cadets that come in and spend the night with the Corps and get a chance to see what the Corps is all about. And for a lot of them, that's what seals the deal for them. That's what gets them to say, yep, the Corps is what I want to do. So Sam Hawes, our assistant commandant for recruiting, and his team have done a phenomenal job. I mean, the one good thing about COVID-19 is all these kids are at home, so they're easy to contact. So Sam and his team have been on the phones, they're doing Zoom meetings, they're doing email interaction, they're doing everything they can to talk to young men and women about coming to Texas A&M and joining the Corps. They're not dropping off one bit. They're going to continue that through the summer as well. As I mentioned, no new student conferences this summer, no camps this summer, no spend the day with the Corps this summer. So Sam and his team are looking at options for how do we do this by phone, by email, and by, you know, virtual means using Zoom or whatever other kinds of means we've got to talk to them via computer. We're already looking at the TACRO schedule for the fall. And TACRO is your college nights at all these high schools. Sam's got a member of his team that does all of those literally across the state of Texas. We're waiting on guidance to find out whether that's still going to take place or not, but right now we're still planning for it. If not, we're going to start going virtual to all these high schools as well. We'll get in there and talk to counselors and say, we'd like to set up a meeting with students interested in coming to Texas A&M so that, you know, we'll split time. We'll let a member of the admissions team talk to them about A&M and what A&M can offer, and then we'll take up some of that time talking about the Corps and what we can offer. We do this a lot already in person, but we can transition very easily to this format like we're doing right now. Sam and his team have done a phenomenal job of leaning forward. They're already looking forward to next year and, you know, understanding that if there are limits in place, how do we mitigate that by using technology to our advantage?
Well, that's great that y'all are still continuing to recruit and plan for the future. I've got a question from Mark Resendez, class of 1986, and he was wondering if there's been any discussion on having a fall review at the beginning of the year for the juniors that missed putting on their senior boots. Y'all talk
That's a
about
great
that?
question. One of the things that we have discussed, my staff and I, is before the first football game, we may hold a review, a core review in honor of the class of 2020. The seniors that did not get a chance to do all the normal events in the spring that seniors are used to doing in the core. You know, you think about it, family weekend, where we recognize all of our seniors and all the units, give out individual awards. We weren't able to do that. We did it virtually, but we weren't able to do it in person. You know, March to the Brazos. We weren't able to do March to the Brazos. We did an honorary one in honor of our cadets and in honor of 2 of our fallen staff members. But, you know, the whole core, the whole class of 2020 was not able to participate. Final review. We did a virtual final review, but again, our seniors were not able to stand there and do that second pass the way they normally would, or do the first pass or last time in uniform as a member of the Corps Cadets. So our intent would be to hold a review in honor of our seniors from the class of 2020 before the first football game. And the intent would be to bring all the seniors back, let them line up on the sideline there, and let the Corps pass and review with them acting as the reviewing officers the way they normally would for second pass. Depending on the time of the kickoff, that would give the seniors a chance to come back and enjoy outfit barbecues with their old outfits, give them a chance to be recognized by their old outfits the way they normally would be during a final review Saturday. That's our intent. We want to do something to recognize them. It was a disappointing way to end the year for them, for all of us. And we hope that we can do something to honor them because I'll tell you, quite frankly, they were very resilient despite all of that. Didn't hear a lot of complaining. They took it in stride. They realized that, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed. If you listen to the final review message from the Corps commander, he emphasized tomorrow's not guaranteed. You know, things could change in a heartbeat that could affect everything we'd planned to do in the blink of an eye. So they've taken this in stride and done a great job of handling it. So we want to honor all of them before the first football game. And our hope is we'll be able to schedule all that and get it all done. And I'll put the word out to all the class of 2020 seniors so that hopefully they can all come back and join us.
Well, we know you've had a lot of things change this semester. Retired General David Rubenstein, class of 77, first wanted me to tell you congratulations on March to the Brazos. And thank you and also thank you for recognizing Colonel Glenn Starnes, 81, and Lieutenant Commander Lee Hassman, 88. He wanted to ask if you were planning a memorial event, Corps-specific silver taps, etc., for those 2 men.
Yes, we are. And again, just in case folks don't know, you know, we lost Glenn Starnes, our Assistant Commandant for Operations and Training, and Lieutenant Commander Lee Hassman, who was one of our wing cadet training officers. We lost them both to cancer within 3 weeks of each other. They'd both been suffering from cancer for a while. And it was tough, quite frankly. It was amid everything else going on. We lost 2 of our longtime staff members to cancer. It was tough. And what was amazing was we knew that we, the staff, were going to feel it deeply. What amazed us was how deeply the cadets felt it and how much they asked about Glenn and Lee and wanted to know what they could do to help either the staff or the family in some small way. So what we're going to do in the fall is right now we are planning on an Echo Taps that will take place at 10:30 at night. It's usually the whole Corps comes out. It's very quiet, very similar to Silver Taps. And then you have kind of an echoing taps played by 2 bugle players, one in front of Duncan, one in front of Danger 7-9er on each opposite end of the quad. And the whole Corps gathered in the middle. And we're going to invite the families of Glenn Starnes and Lee Hassman to come and join us for that. The cadets have already asked for that, and we've told them we would absolutely support that. We appreciate the fact that they're even thinking about Glenn and Lee in such a way. And so we plan to do that right after we get all the cadets back on campus.
There's not a date. Is there a date announced yet, or y'all
No,
are
there's
working?
not. No, there's
Okay.
not. Once we do, we'll put it out. We'll leave it open to the public for those that want
Okay.
to come and recognize them. And again, both great officers who served our nation well, and great Aggies who served our Corps extremely well, our Corps and our university extremely well, and they will be deeply missed.
Man, you've had a lot to deal with. How is your father doing? I know he just got out of the hospital recently.
Yeah, my father's 88 years old. Former prisoner of war, shot 5 times in Korea, taken prisoner of war by the Chinese, spent 33 months as a POW, repatriated at the age of, at weighing 70 pounds, literally. He was 18 years old.
Man.
He's 88 years old now, and he's got colon cancer. There's not much more they're going to be able to do for him. But he's doing well. I talk to him every night via we've got the Facebook portal, and we bought him one for Christmas. So now we talk via that every night. He's doing well. That man's harder than woodpecker lips. The toughest man I've ever known, my role model, my mentor, but he's doing very, very well. And I greatly appreciate you asking.
It sounds like a very tough dude.
He is.
I know I think you said, and you have mentioned in the past that he encouraged you to go to A&M after you told him you were deciding on going to A&M. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with the university and how it's come to this point?
Yeah, it was interesting. I went to an inner city school, predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, inner city, blue collar. I wasn't thinking about college. What I was thinking about was I was probably going to join the Marine Corps. A lot of my friends, had already signed up and were going to join the Marine Corps. And, so I thought, well, heck, I'll just go be a Marine like all of them. And a lot of my family members had. And I was in downtown Houston on a Saturday morning. And to this day, I still don't remember why I was down there. But I was in downtown Houston on a Saturday morning. And that happened to be the weekend when A&M was playing Rice and the Corps cadets marched into downtown Houston. And there I am standing there on the corner wondering what's going on. There's this parade coming down the street, and here comes the Corps. And of course, the first outfit that I saw was the Fighting Texas Aggie Band. And I played alto sax in the high school band. And boy, I saw that band, and that was it for me. I said, oh man, I don't know what that is, but I want to be a part of it. And so I went to my high school counselor and told him that I wanted to go to Texas A&M and I wanted to go to college. And he actually looked at me and said, you got to be kidding me. You're not serious about trying to go to college. I said, no, I really do want to go to college. And this is no kidding what he told me. This is a man I admired greatly. He looked at me and said, Joe, Mexicans don't go to Texas A&M. Mexicans go to the University of Texas. And I said, well, this Mexican wants to go to Texas A&M and join that band and be a part of that band. So that's kind of what started me on my journey, was the fact that I happened to see the Corps marching into downtown Houston on a Saturday morning. I knew nothing about the Corps. I knew nothing about A&M. I didn't even know where A&M was. But I knew from that moment on that I wanted to be a part of that organization. And what was interesting about that was when I told my dad that I wanted to go to Texas A&M, he told me the story about his first platoon leader, who was an Aggie. He said, my first platoon leader was a graduate from Texas A&M, and his name was Lieutenant Mabry Kane, and he was the best officer I ever served with. And he died in my dad's arms. In Korea, died in my dad's arms during a mortar attack by the Chinese. He died there. And when my dad came back from being a POW, he met with Mabry Kane's mother and got a chance to tell her the story about her son and how brave he was and what a great officer he was. And so my dad, of course, when he found out that I wanted to go to the same school that this guy went to, he was like, man, you got my full support. I'm all behind you. I just want you to go to college. But the fact that you're going to the same one that one of the best officers in the Army I ever served with went to makes it a bonus. So that's kind of what started my journey. Now, it was a bumpy journey once I got here. I did not have a stellar fish year. I was not the best fish in the Corps. I'll put it to you like that. But I survived my fish year, and thankfully it all worked out from there.
I hear that fish year can be pretty tough for the cadets sometimes.
I think if you talk to anybody who's been in the Corps, Bill can second this, as can his brother, David, who I served with in the Army. Yeah, that fish year, it was tough. I was not prepared for that. I didn't know anything about the Corps or A&M, and so that fish year took me by surprise, and that was rough for me. I don't know, but if Bill can second that, but it was tough for me.
Well, it's all relative. I actually didn't want to go into the Corps at all, and because I have a long line of legacy in front of me, I felt pressure to do that, and I reluctantly joined the Corps. And frankly, I was a bit timid and a little afraid. And I never forget driving in the back seat of the car with my mom and dad, and I'm like, well, Dad, what if someone wants to, haze me or do something like that? And he says, son, you just look him in the eye and say, I'm not doing that. And and actually, I was in a great outfit, and I don't, probably in today's terms, you would call it hazing, but we didn't have a hazing problem in the outfit. And I'm going to tell you that I loved it from day one. And although it was challenging, I found that I was really embodied by that. Some of my friends from high school who were so gung-ho, and that's all they ever want to do in their life, and they were just shot up with the Hut 2, 3, 4. One lasted a week, and another one lasted a semester. So it can be tough, but it can also be very, very fun.
Oh, I agree. This past November, we had the Aggie band class of '79 had their 40th reunion in Fredericksburg. And, it's amazing how after all these years we get together and we don't talk about our senior year. We all talk about our fish year and what we went through and what we experienced and what upperclassmen to this day we still don't like because they treated us a certain way. It's very interesting to see that dynamic. But, I tell you, those guys have been my buddies now for 40 plus years, and I would do anything for them, and I know they do the same for me.
One of your classmates, he goes by the name of Mr. BS. I'll let you decide who that is, class of '79. He helps us with the Feed the Band when the band comes and marches in the Battle of Flowers, which is a great event. And Bob Sims, he does a great job helping us get that put together and making sure that we've got the funding for it. And he said, I don't know if it was a question. He said, would you care to comment on how you were able to assist him in the ability to graduate Texas A&M without violating the Aggie Honor Code?
No, Bob is a great Aggie. Bob was a Cav jock and, just a great Aggie all the way around. And, for a kid from inner city Houston to be thrust into this environment, which at that time, the Corps was a lot of guys from small town Texas. I mean, they were from towns I'd never heard of. And the vast majority of them liked country and Western music and wore boots and jeans and had dip in their mouth, 9 times out of 10. And that was a strange environment for me coming from inner city Houston. And, Bob and I became friends early on and we remain friends to this day. And he's a great Aggie, great American. And I greatly appreciate all that he and the rest of you do to take care of our cadets that go down there every year for the
Feed the Band
parade, for the Battle of Flowers parade, and then bring them over to Aggie Park to get fed by the San Antonio A&M Club and the the San Antonio Mothers Club. I mean, I can't tell you how much we greatly appreciate that and how much it means to the cadets, because that's, as you well know, that anybody that's ever marched in that parade knows that's a long parade. That is a long parade. And at the end of it, to be able to come and get a good meal and meet with fellow Aggies and just talk about what it means to be an Aggie and the Aggie spirit means a lot to all of them, means a lot to all of us. So Bob Sims, great American, great Aggie, but no, I'm not gonna, put anybody in harm's way with anything that I say about our days back at A&M.
Well, I'm not sure when they're planning on doing the next Battle of Flowers. They've talked about it in November,
Yeah.
but we sure hope that. I know it's been a couple of years, but hopefully you can come back and join. Did you ride with the Cav in the parade?
But the first 3 or 4 years that I was here, I rode with the Cav. I would ride with the Cav every year in the parade, and I enjoyed that. But I got to tell you, the first time I rode with the Cav in that parade, Bob Burns, who oversees Parsons Mounted Cavalry, said, we really got to train for this. And I'm like, Bob, it's a parade. You're just walking straight down the street. It's not that hard a deal, until I got to the Battle of Flowers parade. And that's a pretty grueling experience for horses that tend to be skittish with the people. I mean, literally right up against the street and a lot of noise and people popping things off and blowing horns. And I tell you, the horse I rode that first year was really skittish. And by the time I got to the end of that parade, I was soaked in sweat. I came to appreciate, what Bob was trying to do and prepping me for this parade. But that is a wonderful parade. And to see literally hundreds of thousands of people that are out there to see the parade, and more importantly, to see all the Aggies that are out there. Man, Aggies everywhere, which, is awesome to see. And it makes you feel good about being an Aggie. And it makes the cadets feel good too. And makes it all worthwhile for them to march down the streets of San Antonio to see all the Aggies that are cheering them on.
Yep. Hopefully there's some other young Joe Ramirez is in the crowd getting to see the Aggie band march.
That's one of the payoffs, as we know, that's marketing the Corps. Every time we do those parades, there's somebody out there that's going to see that and say, I want to be a part of that.
Well, I've got a question for you. You said you played the alto sax. I know you're a world-class air guitarist. Do you ever get back to playing the saxophone at all?
I'm far better in the air guitar now than I am on my alto sax, I'll tell you. I've still got my alto sax, but 31 years in the Army didn't really afford me many opportunities to play my saxophone. And like I said, I'm far better in the air guitar, especially after a couple of scotches. I'm a prodigy on the air guitar. I'm not as good on the old alto sax anymore.
Well, my grandfather likes to drink the scotch, and I was at a bar in Scotland. They said they knew every scotch in the world, and I asked them if they knew what the scotch that he drank was. They had no idea, so I wanted to see if you knew what this was. So, have you ever drank this scotch before?
No, I've never heard of that. I like Macallan.
Do what?
I like Macallan, and but I've never heard of that one.
Well, it's usually on the bottom shelf, tucked in the back. It's about $14 for a bottle. And the good thing is you can, if you run out of gas, you can pour it in your gas tank and it'll start your truck up.
He's a smart man.
And speaking of scotch, I've got a question from Mandy Scott, class of 1987. She said she enjoys your thoughts while drinking coffee on Sunday mornings, and she was asking, how do you like your coffee? Do you drink it black with cream or sugar, or do you spike it with anything stronger?
No, and on Sunday mornings I drink my coffee black. I don't put anything in it. It's interesting. I didn't start drinking coffee till I was a captain in the Army. I never did. I never drank coffee. Bill knows you run PT in the morning, and that would get the adrenaline flowing and everything. And I was pretty good for the rest of the day. And it wasn't until I became a captain, and I was a battalion maintenance officer in Germany, and both my maintenance warrant and my maintenance non-commissioned officer, NCO the sergeant, they drank coffee all day long, and they smoked cigarettes all day long. And this is back in the days when you could smoke indoors. So my office, I would sit there, and cigarette smoke and coffee was all you smelled all day long. And so they never really got me into the cigarettes, thank God, but they finally got me convinced that I ought to drink coffee. And now I'm a diehard. I drink coffee every morning, and I drink it black because in that office, that's how they drank it. They had no cream, no sugar, nothing. They said, if you want to drink coffee here, you drink it black. And that was it. So from then on, that's the way I drank my coffee. And to this day, I still drink it black.
Well, Marissa Chambliss, class of 2016, would like to know if you have any suggestions on keeping good health and staying in shape during this pandemic.
Well, it's interesting. I've got I was a PE major. I was a physical education major here at A&M. PE. Now, people would ask me, when I was in the Army, oh, PE, petroleum engineering, huh? And I would say, yeah, something like that, something like close to that. But I was a phys ed major, so physical fitness has always been important to me. And of course, the Army it's part of the culture and the ethos of being in the Army. You do PT every day. So for me, that was easy. It's been a little bit harder since I've gotten out, quite frankly, because as I've gotten older, there's more of a tendency to say, well, I'm too busy, I don't have time. Well, since COVID-19 hit, I've created my own little gym in my garage. So I have no excuses now. It doesn't matter how busy the day is. All I have to do is go home, and my garage is right there, and I've got all the equipment I need. I've got a full weight bench with Olympic weight bar. I've got curl bars. I got dumbbells. I got a pull-up rack. I got a dip rack. So I have no excuse whatsoever. So to tell you the truth, I've actually gotten in better shape over the last couple of months than I have probably the previous 6 months, mainly because I walk out of my truck in the afternoon and walk into my house, and there's my gym. So I literally have no excuse. But I'll tell you this, I think a lot of people are taking advantage of this time. And I see a lot of people out walking and jogging and riding bikes, walking their dogs, walking with their kids. I see a lot of people out and about just taking advantage of the time because they're home, and that gives them an opportunity to get out and about a little bit and still maintain that social distancing, but they're exercising. They're out there doing what needs to be done and still staying safe. So I think there are many, many ways to do this, whether it's creating your own home gym or whether it's little things like going out for a walk, getting on a bike and riding a bike for a little while, going on a jog, finding ways to stay active. And it's amazing too how many of the cadets that were in the dorms were doing exercise online. I'd walk to the dorms and check on the cadets to see how they were doing during all this time. And we had many cadets doing exercise online. They just pop up an exercise video online, and they were working out in their rooms. So there's many opportunities out there to stay in shape. You just got to find what works best for you and your time.
It sounds like you've been using your time wisely and taking advantage of that extra time at the house. And I bet it came in handy at the March to the Brazos.
Oh, it did. But I got to tell you, that March to the Brazos gets harder every year. That's 9 miles out and 9 miles back. And, this year we did just the march out. And, but I got to tell you, by the time I got there, I was hurting. My feet hurt, my knees hurt, even my hips hurt. It doesn't get any easier as you get older. I was telling the cadets when we got out there, I said, it didn't hurt this much 5 years ago. I'm not sure what's going on, but it hurt. But I'm glad we did it. It was one of those events that, we felt we had to do something. And quite frankly, Dr. Danny Pugh, the Vice President of Student Affairs, is the one who said, well, why don't you do an honorary march out there and, do it in honor of the cadets? And so I talked to the Corps Commander, Luke Thomas, and I said, Luke, how about if we got a rep from each class to do it? And Luke said, I'd like to do it for my class. We got next year's Corps Commander, Tanner Cedrone, did it for the junior class. We got next year's Corps Sergeant Major, Cadet Fortier, Connor Fortier did it for his class. And then Fish Pugh, Vice President of Student Affairs, Danny Pugh's son, who's a cadet in L1, he did it for the freshman class. So, while it wasn't the same as having the whole Corps there, it was still a great event, and we were glad we all did it, despite the pain.
We're glad you made it through it. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out to speak with us. And we hopefully we can still get you down to San Antonio, whether it's for the Battle of the Flowers Parade or to speak at a Monday lunch and get more in depth on where the core is and where we're going. And I know things are going to be different moving forward, and it'd be interesting to see how this affects you guys going forward in the future.
Yeah, we, again, we're planning to start the school year as we always do, fully understanding that the rules are going to be different, life is going to be different, but our goal is to try to keep the core and that experience as normal as possible. Understanding that we're going to have some rules that are going to change for us and all, but we want the core cadets to still be the core cadets, and we want our cadets to get the most out of it, and to get that experience that cadets have been getting for over 140 years now. And so that's the goal right now. That's what we're planning for. And the same thing with the school year. I know everybody on campus is doing their best to come up with solutions for how to start the school year and try to make life at Texas A&M about as normal as possible. Understanding that there are going to be some changes, but we want our students to get that Aggie experience and what it means to be an Aggie, what sets us apart from everybody else in the nation. So that's the goal. Everybody's working hard to try to make sure that we can do that.
Well, that's good. Thank you again. For everyone that's watching, next week, we've got Bronson Burgoon, who is a PGA Tour member, was on the 2009 National Championship golf team at Texas A&M. He'll be our guest. And once again, thank you, General Ramirez. Our prayers to your family, your father in Texas A&M. And Bill, thanks for joining us, and look forward to next week.
Thank you, Logan. Great job as always.
Thank you.
Logan, thank you. You and Bill both. God bless you guys. God bless all the San Antonio A&M Club Aggies. I look forward to seeing you again soon. God bless, and gig 'em.
Thank you. Gig 'em.
Gig 'em.